What is going on, everybody? New York Sports Up here. I'm back at it with another NFC East video. I'm making a video today about the Philadelphia Eagles and why I think they're an overrated team going into the 2020-2021 NFL season. Now, I think a lot of Eagles fans like to say that the Eagles are going to go, 12-4, 13-3, 14-2. Carson Wentz MVP. They're going to sweep the division. They say that pretty much every year. And most of the times they never do it, because Eagles fans love to overhype their players and they love to overhype their team, because they treat, their players like they're gods, like they're the best in their position, which they're clearly not. So I'm going to go over their team and, explain to you guys why I think that the Eagles are not a Super Bowl contender, and I don't think that, they'll win 12, 13 games. So, starting off with the quarterback position, they have Carson Wentz as their starting quarterback, which I do have respect for Carson Wentz. I do think he is a very, very good quarterback, but he's very injury prone, and they definitely disrespected him by getting Jalen Hurts. That was completely disrespectful to him. The Packers did the same thing with Jordan Love to Aaron Rodgers. So it seems like they have no respect for their quarterbacks, and Carson Wentz has always seemed to be getting hurt in the big moment. Like every time, say it's like about to a playoff, it's about to go into playoffs, the Eagles already clinched a playoff berth. He always seems to get hurt right before the playoffs start, and he always has bad luck. And last wild card game against the Seahawks, it kind of might have been a cheap shot by Jadeveon Clowney when he just blindsided him, and that could have been a cheap shot by Jadeveon Clowney. But overall, Carson Wentz has always seemed to have bad luck, when it comes to the playoffs, because he's always gotten hurt. He's barely ever played a playoff game before. So, that's one thing we have to look at. Although I do think Carson Wentz is a very good quarterback. I think he's very capable. And Carson Wentz has never really played a playoff game before, so you can't really say Carson Wentz is a top 10, like an elite quarterback if he's never played a playoff game, really, ever. If he's never really played a playoff game, you can't really call Carson Wentz an elite quarterback, in my opinion. So I think he still is a top 10 quarterback, but personally, I don't think he's an elite quarterback. And if Carson Wentz can't stay healthy and continues to get hurt, the past couple seasons, maybe we can see Daniel Jones emerge as the best quarterback in this division. I don't think that's impossible. I think Daniel Jones has so much talent, and I think he can play better than Carson Wentz next year. And I do think that's possible. I think Daniel Jones will play better than any quarterback in this division next year. That's just my opinion. I just think Daniel Jones has better receivers. He has Slayton, Shepard, and Tate, three very, very capable receivers. The Eagles really don't have any receivers. They don't really have an elite receiver. The Giants do, in my opinion, in Darius Slade. The Eagles really don't have an elite receiver. They did sign Marquise Goodwin from the 49ers, but I don't think Marquise Goodwin is an elite receiver. I think he's decent, but he's definitely not elite. And Jalen Reagor, I'm not a big fan of Jalen Reagor. I don't think he's a very good receiver. I didn't really like the draft pick for the Eagles. I don't think Jalen Reagor is that good. I don't know why. And a lot of people, a lot of Eagles fans like to say Jalen Reagor is going to be better than CeeDee Lamb. No way Jalen Reagor is going to be better than CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb is way more talented than Jalen Reagor is. And Jalen Reagor is just not very good. The Eagles just do not have a top target for Carson Wentz besides Zach Ertz. And it's never good when you have a tight end as your top target. You need a wide receiver, like an elite wide receiver for Carson Wentz to be a better team. And the Eagles just don't have that. Now, in the draft, they did make some good picks. Later in the draft for wide receivers, they had John Hightower, who I was a big fan of, which I kind of wanted the Giants to get. If they were going to go wide receiver, they also drafted Quez Watkins, and those are two receivers that look pretty good, but we don't know how many games they will play. We don't know if they'll play the full season or not, so we can't say that they'll be good in the NFL because they have not played in the NFL yet. So, and once again, they do have to get used to a new offensive coordinator with Mike Groh down there in Philly, so they have to get used to a new offensive coordinator, which they could definitely play worse. And personally, I'm just not a big fan of the Eagles receiving core. It's definitely their biggest weakness. And if they did have a top target, I think Carson Wentz could be a better quarterback, and the Eagles could be a better team, but they just don't have it. And we move over to the offensive line, which is definitely one of the strong suits. But the Eagles just lost their Pro Bowl guard in Brandon Brooks, and that was a huge blow. And that's a huge blow to their team. The offensive line might be the best part about their team. They have a stacked offensive line with him and Lane Johnson. Lane Johnson's also one of the best tackles in the league as well. That guy's a really good offensive lineman. And personally, the loss of Brandon Brooks is a huge blow to the offensive line. And now, I don't think the offensive line is as good as it used to be. Now, they'll probably go out and sign someone that might be pretty good. Maybe a guy they'll reunite with Jason Peters. But Jason Peters is also very injury prone. And that guy always gets injured all the time. So I don't know if they'll bring him back. There is some decent offensive linemen on the market that they could sign. But it's still a downgrade of Brandon Brooks, because Brandon Brooks is a really good offensive lineman, and he's one of the best. He's one of the best in the league. So that's just a big blow to their team, and I think that's gonna make the Eagles team worse, because the offensive line is one of their best strong suits for their team, and if they just lost one of their best linemen, it's not a strong suit anymore. So the offensive line has declined, and that makes the Eagles a worse team, because They have their running back in Miles Sanders. I think Miles Sanders is pretty decent, but a lot of Eagles fans like to treat Miles Sanders like he's a top 5 running back. I don't think he'll be a top 5 running back. I don't think he'll be a top 10 running back. I think he'll be decent. I think he'll be solid, but I don't think Miles Sanders is a great running back. He's not going to be as good as Saquon Barkley is. He won't be close to be as good as Saquon Barkley. Miles Sanders, I think, is decent, but I don't think he's a great running back in my opinion. And the Eagles really don't have a star player on offense besides Zach Ertz. And you could definitely call Carson Wentz a star. I would call him a star, but Zach Ertz is really the only star in that offense, and the offense really does not excite me. And they're not as very scary offense in my opinion. I don't think it's as fast paced as they say it is. And in my opinion, I think it's still kind of a slow moving offense. It's not as fast paced as they say it is. But it definitely, I am really excited. I'm not really excited, but I don't really know how the offense is going to play. Personally, I still think it's a very, very slow offense. I'm not a big fan of their offensive coordinator, Mike Groh. I don't think the Eagles' offense is going to be that good this year. I think it's very average. And personally, I'm not a big fan of it. So we move over to their defense, and which is pretty good. They probably have the best defense in the NFC East. They signed Darius Slay in the offseason, which I thought was a pretty good signing, but I do think Darius Slay is a little bit overrated. I always thought he was overrated when he was with the Lions. I think he's overrated corner. I think James Bradbury will play better than Darius Slay, and I really like the pick in the 3rd round, the safety Kavon Wallace they drafted. I'm a huge fan of that pick, but he will not be better than Xavier McKinney. No way Kavon Wallace will be better than Xavier McKinney. And that's what a lot of Eagles fans are saying. Eagles fans are saying that Kavon Wallace would be better than Xavier McKinney. Xavier McKinney was the best safety in the draft. Kavon Wallace was picked in the 3rd round, and he definitely was not the best safety in the draft. So there's no way Kavon Wallace would be better than Xavier McKinney. I could bet my house on that. There's no way that's happening. So although overall their defense is still pretty good, they have some decent players on defense, guys like Derek Barnett, a lot of guys on defense that are pretty good. But overall, the Eagles are a very, very injury-prone team. You never know, like the guys on defense, they could get hurt, and that can hurt their team a lot. So I mean, the Eagles. The Eagles only went 9-7 last year. They were lucky to go 9-7. They were 5-7 after losing a game to the Miami Dolphins, and that was just an embarrassing loss. I mean, the Dolphins were one of the worst teams in the NFL last year, and they lost to them. And they had some embarrassing losses, and they weren't very good against competitive teams. And they only really won because they had a run at the end. And because, I mean, the final 4 teams they played, and they did have one game against Dallas where they played well, but of the 3 out of the 4 games, they had 2 games against the Giants and 1 game against the Redskins. The Giants and Redskins are horrible teams, and the main reason why the Eagles pretty much won 9 games, the main reason why the Eagles maybe even finished over 500 was because they played the Giants and Redskins. So technically, if you think about it, the Giants and Redskins kind of were the only reason why the Eagles made the playoffs. So the Eagles are definitely an overrated team, and the Eagles have an even tougher schedule this year, with a tougher schedule. And the Eagles' schedule was not that difficult last year. With a tougher schedule this year, it's not going to get any better for the Eagles, even with their loss of Brandon Brooks. So I would not be surprised if the Eagles completely flop and go 7-9, maybe 8-8, and maybe Dallas wins the division, because Dallas' schedule is not as tough as the Eagles' one is, and the Eagles' schedules is probably even tougher than the Giants' one. So I would not be surprised if the Eagles completely flop this year. They go 7-9, 8-8. I would not be surprised if that happens. So overall, I kind of just want to make this video. I think the Eagles are an overrated team. And with only going 9-7 last year with an easy schedule and with an even tougher schedule, and once again the loss of your Pro Bowl guard and Brandon Brooks and just some injuries around the team, I think the Eagles could be even worse than last year. Although I still think they'll find a way to go 9-7, because that's usually what the Eagles do. They always find a way, to win at the end, because they're always a good end of the season team. I still think the Eagles will win 9 games, but I would not be surprised if the Eagles go out and win 7 or 8 games, because they're due. I mean, for a really bad season. I would be surprised in, 2022 they finished, 3-13, like the Giants did in 2017. The Giants were, once again, predicted to win that division that year, and they went 3-13 because they had just devastating injuries. Odell Beckham, got injured in the preseason. That kind of just set the tone for the whole year. The Giants were miserable that year, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles do something like that. Maybe not this year, but next year I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles do something like that. So I just think the Eagles do not have a bright future because their cap space is not very good. I think a lot of Giants fans can agree with me that the Eagles do not have a bright future ahead of them, in my opinion. I don't think they'll see any playoffs after this year, and you never know. Maybe they miss the playoffs. Maybe Dallas comes in, wins that division. Dallas did make some improvements, signing CeeDee Lamb. The Cowboys have an elite receiving corps. They have 3 really good receivers in CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, and Amari Cooper. Who knows? Maybe the Cowboys come in and win the division. I would not be surprised if the Cowboys win the division, but I still have the Eagles winning it, mainly because they're a really good end-of-season team, and the Eagles always find a way to win. So that's the reason why I still have the Eagles winning the division, but I would not be surprised if the Cowboys win the division. So that's going to do it for this video. I kind of want to make a video why I think the Eagles are an overrated team. I think the Eagles are destined for a really bad season in a couple years, and I just think Eagle fans always overrate their team, and the Eagles are not going to be any better than they were last year. Maybe even worse. So that's going to do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.